Hello. Today I'm excited to show you how to make an easy mobile application with Progress Role-Based Mobile. You'll see we've got our CRM application. Anybody who goes and sets up an account can see this CRM application and build on it and make it their own. What I've got so far is 2 entries in our CRM system, B. Franklin and G. Washington. And I'm going to add a new lead here just so that you can see how we would do it within role-based interface. As you add new leads, you may decide you need new fields. You can add those. It's a very flexible structure to be able to create apps. And there I show up. Now, let's go into the area where we can create a new mobile app. Under your settings area, there's a listing of applications. I have several. And I'm going to go into my CRM application. And you'll see that we've got a lot of different kinds of objects. In the mobile apps area, I'm going to create a new mobile app. We give our app a name. We choose what type of device we're going to target. In this case, a phone app. We decide what kinds of views. Views are like objects and they allow us to get access to data. So we're just going to take all of our leads and create a simple site. Here's the mobile editor. You'll notice that we have multiple projects, pages, the ability to add themes and CSS. And by default, we've got 2 pages created for us. A login page because everything is completely secure. So we're going to clean up this detail page. We have a little note there that's just for help you get started. We're going to drag in a list item. And a list can either be static data that you would type in here, or you can change it down to a single list item and then populate that dynamically. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to change the name of the field so it's easy for us to find when we're linking the data into that field. And we're going to get rid of the text so there's no text appearing there. We want to get that dynamic information in there. Then we're going to add a label, and labels can be used to populate information. We're going to make one of them for the first name and one of them for the last name. So we give each of these fields a name. I've cleared the text out again so that there's no text in there to get in the way of somebody entering in text. And now that we've got our fields labeled, let's just change the title of the page so it makes a little bit more sense as a CRM application. So these are our CRM leads. Now let's take a look at the events area. This is where we connect an event to something that happens, an action, and gives you a result. So our app detail page, when it loads, is going to invoke a service. You'll see that here we can add different kinds of services. These are device services. You'll notice we have access to the barcode, the camera, contacts, things like that. But in this case, we're going to use a service that is already imported. That's going to let us pull in our data. You'll see a bunch of internal named objects. You can ignore those for now. We're going to come down to the lead service. That's the one we added. We're going to select this JSDO object to be able to create our default object to hold our data. We're going to give it a nice, easy name to remember. And then we're going to create a second one to allow us to read our leads. This is going to pull that information out of that object. So here, on the load of the app detail page, we're going to invoke our JSDO. I want you to notice that under the components, we've got a variety of different types of components. Each of those components have a different type of event that can trigger them. So you'll notice that on a text field, you've got things like key press, value change, tap and hold. But if you change it to something like app detail page, we have things like an error coming up, or battery gets critical, or tapping. There's also things like waiting for the device to be ready, or the back button has been pressed. You get a lot of great options here. Everything an enterprise level app platform should give you. Let's go back and do our data mapping now. We've got our two services, and now we need to tell those things where to place their data that they've captured. So we're going to say what set of data we want to get from the first row through the first 100 rows, let's say. You don't want it to be unlimited because who knows how much you could pull back. Once we take that data, we're going to decide which pieces out of the JSDO object we want to use. In this case, the first name and the last name. So here on the right side, we've got all of our elements that we've placed on our screen. I'm going to map the first name to the first name. You'll see that it automatically puts it in the text area, even if I put it on the top. So we've got our first name and our last name. Now we want to pull back all the data and display it over and over, iterate through the data, filling in each field. So at a higher level, the grouping, that lead object, needs to be mapped into the higher level of the object's physical objects. In this case, we didn't give it a nice name, it's mobile item 7. But that will let all of our data flow into and create a table, making us a really nice little way to show our page. So let's go and invoke our read service. We need to go back and tell our object, when it's been successful, to put its data inside of the read object. And that means we've read our data and we can put it in the right place. So let's take a look at the preview page and see what it's like to be able to test what we've made so far. Everything's secure, so you need to log in order to be able to see this data. And you'll see it brings back my records. Now notice in the emulator, we can see things in different orientations. We can change different sizes. There's a lot of flexibility here. We can also view it on the phone. So I'm going to scan a QR code and let you see live what this looks like. We get our QR code, and once we open that URL, the page loads, just like it did in the emulator. And I type in my username, put my password in here, and there it is. So we've got basically the same page. Okay, let's go back and continue to build our app. So let's create a new page now. We want to be able to add a new user into our database. Under here, you can make new themes, add CSS, add services, different kinds of JavaScript. There's a lot of flexibility to allow you to do all kinds of things. Right now, we're going to create a brand new page. This is going to be our page to add new leads. And here's our new blank page. Again, let's give it a title that makes a little bit more sense. And let's add some objects to hold all of our data. So we'll start out by adding a grid so that we can keep our stuff nice and organized. We need a couple of labels to be able to show the user what kind of information we expect them to put into their input fields. And then we need a couple of input fields to be able to gather that data from the user. So let's make our labels say something that makes a little bit of sense here. We're trying to gather the first name and the last name and kind of make the box look a little bit better. Let's change that input so that it's not in the way. And we're going to give it a really understandable name, something like new first name, something. Our second input, remove the default text, and that'll be our last name. Okay, let's save. Now what we want to do is map that data back into the database. So we're going to go over to our data area and add a new service. One of the things that was automatically created for us when we loaded a lead data type was the ability to create a new one. So we're going to select create a new lead, and we're going to give it a nice name so that we can find it easily. Then we're going to edit the mapping so that we know where that data needs to go to. Much like the last time, except in this case we're going to go a little bit in reverse. So we find where first name and last name belong, and then we're going to map that component back over to where the data belongs. So let's move our first name over there and our last name over there, and we've created our data mapping. And back on our app detail page, we forgot to add a button to be able to get to our lead create page. So let's go back and add that. And instead of making a button with words on it, I'm going to use a little character. That keeps it small. Screen real estate is tight. This is one of those big advantages. So let's take that, we'll map that button to lead to the other page. Didn't give it a very friendly name. So let's give it a little bit more friendly name. Mobile button 17. Add, that's much better. All right. So our add button now, once somebody clicks on it, same thing as a touch, we're going to go and navigate to a page. There we go, navigate to a page. Which page? Our lead create page. Okay, that's mapped. Let's save and take a look at this. All right, let's add in a couple of leads here. First, we'll add my favorite colleague, Shelley Chase. Create that object, and there she is. Let's try adding another one. I'll add myself, and it didn't show up. Why not? Well, we set up our object, our trigger, to be when the page loads, rather than when the page shows. So we need to go back and get our information again out of our JSDO object when the page shows. So we'll set up that round trip, and there it is. So now we've got all of our users showing up the way they're supposed to in our CRM leads. So now let's take a look back at role-based, just for the desktop users that want to make sure that they know what's going on in the field. We can see that both of these systems work seamlessly together. Notice we've got all 4 of our users, and everything works great. Now, just for bonus points, let's take a look at updating something on the mobile device and seeing it update in progress real time. Here's my phone. Got mirroring on so everybody can see it. I'm going to pull up this QR code that I used before and log in. And back in my CRM Leads app, I've got my people listed. I'm going to add a new one. Another president, maybe. Here we go. All right, let's create that record. Excellent. So it shows up right away on my mobile phone, which is great. Right on the desktop browser, to refresh the page, and there's our data. Welcome, Mr. Lincoln. Thank you for watching today. This is Lee Andron with Progress. Please go check out Role-Based today. Sign up for your free trial, and you can kick the tires on that CRM app yourself. Have a great day.